This is an insidious little trap that held me back for many years in my life, and I see it hold people back all the time. My clients, friends, family, and I repeatedly continue to see it pop up for me in my own life all the time. The main point, the main idea is this. It's never getting started on whatever it is that you say you want to do or that you know you want to do, or waiting too long. But it's a little bit more refined than that. And when I dig into it, what really seems to be an issue is a lack of willingness to start small. It's like if you have this big goal to accomplish something, a big vision, it's almost like we want to accomplish it now, today. But that's not how things work. Every seed for a giant oak tree has the potential to grow into a giant oak tree. But it starts out very small as a seed. You can easily pick up an oak seed. You cannot pick up an entire oak tree full grown. In the same way, the things that you want to accomplish, I believe that if you have a desire or a dream for something, then that means by default you have the capacity or the potential to accomplish it. Part of my spiritual perspective on human identity. So if you have a desire for something, that means within your seed, you have the potential to be that. But you got to start small, just like with planting a seed in the soil. And a lot of us don't want to start small. We don't want to start with something small. We just want to get there now. McChurch, McDonald's. It's the McGeneration, right? It's right now, microwave, 30 seconds, no process, no work, no effort, no journey. It's almost like we're embarrassed or something if we start small, right? Here's the interesting thing to really think about. The thing that we are most committed to as humans is our identity. Liberal, conservative, entrepreneur, academic, right? Rich, poor, whatever the things are that you identify with, that is your identity. That is what you are most committed to. Now, why am I bringing that up? Here's why. You will never allow your life to be incongruent with your identity. For example, people who win the lottery, tens of millions or more, 90, 100, 150 million dollars. And then within a few years, they are completely broke. And the suicide rate amongst these people is insane per capita. How's that possible? They didn't have the capacity, they didn't have the identity that has the capacity to hold and wield that kind of money. You see this example with people who join these fitness challenges, lean out, get in shape, and then gain it all back and more 6 months to a year later. Why? Their identity didn't change. They weren't congruent in their identity with somebody who is fit and healthy. You will never, ever escape your identity. Your life will never be incongruent with your identity because that is the thing that you are most committed to. The good news is you can change your identity. Back to the thing about starting small. When we start something new and by default have to start it small, if you're looking at it from the perspective of the finished end state, for example, let's say getting really fit, you're not going to ever get there in one workout, 1 week or 30 days or 3 months. It's just not going to happen. That's not how it works. But if you go into every workout looking at the gap between where you're at now and whatever physique ideal you have for yourself, you want that end outcome right now out of this next workout. Ain't gonna happen. So what you're doing is you're creating a lot of unnecessary friction for yourself mentally. Now, if you were to wire together a plan saying these initial steps have nothing to do with getting to the outcome, these initial steps are with creating a new identity. Now every little thing that you do is a massive win, because now it's not about getting the abs, it's about becoming the person who has abs. So now what you can do is you could literally just say, okay, for the next 30 days, I'm just going to go for a 45-minute walk every single day. That's going to be the beginning of my journey, my fitness journey, becoming the person who is fit, changing my identity. So for the next 30 days, all I'm going to do is just go for a walk every single day. See, somebody who's trying to get abs right now, yesterday, today, you're going to throw a Herculean amount of effort, white knuckle it, starve yourself, do a bunch of different things, right, to try to get to the abs. You most likely won't. The success rate for people with that approach is dismally low. And you're even less likely to keep any results you did generate because your identity didn't change. Now, if you approach it with, and this isn't fitness advice, I'm just giving you an example of the difference of mindset. If you approach it with, okay, I understand that what I really need to do is change my identity in this area because me being out of shape or unhealthy or overweight or whatever your self-perspective might be, and you have a vision of where you do want to be, right, which is different than I obviously than where you're at now. If fitness is a goal for you, or some change in fitness is a goal for you, the first step has to be what version of me has that outcome and that result as a normal way of life? Who do I have to become? And then your first steps towards that goal are not about Herculean effort today, right now, to get to that outcome, which again, seed, giant oak tree, it just takes time and you have to start small. Instead of judging starting small, because it's such a big gap to the outcome, you are actually excited and motivated by starting small because it's easier to start small physically. And at the same time, what you're really doing is you're working on, you're working on changing your identity. You're somebody who does invest intentionally into your fitness and your health on a daily basis. See, it's not about the 45-minute walk as much as it is about starting a new keystone habit, right? Or starting a new key habit where a new linchpin habit where just you participating actively and intentionally in that habit changes your identity, because now you're congruent with the kind of person who makes an intentional investment and effort into your fitness every day. It's not about the size. I don't think it's about the size of the investment today as much as it is the consistency and congruence with the investment and the intentional effort over time. Say 30 days. Now, 30 days goes by and you're like, okay, my knees have adapted to walking, my legs and ankles, everything's fine, I'm used to walking now. What might I add? Okay, well, maybe you say, now I'm going to go to the gym once per week for a weightlifting session and then keep walking the rest of the days. See how small that changes? Like once per week? Okay. I can do that, especially if you've already been walking every day for 45 minutes on a daily basis. And then say, for the next 2 weeks, I'm just going to go once a week. I'm not even 100% sure what my program is going to be. What am I going to do? How am I going to lift? But, I'm going to go in there and I'm not going to even worry about, do I have a good program? I'm just going to watch some videos on YouTube about weightlifting or building muscle, building strength. And then I'm just going to go practice those movements with lightweight in the gym, just to practice how they feel and kind of figure out what my muscles and my body seems to connect with the best. See? Again, you're not trying to get the abs. You're trying to become the person who has abs. Again, as a metaphor here. But with this kind of iterative approach to starting small and growing, and continuously just iterating and growing, what happens? Your identity changes. You're somebody that has fun putting time and effort into fitness and health. And then instead of having this approach where, oh shit, I don't have my abs that I want or my outcome, whatever it is, after every single intentional effort, and therefore constantly keep throwing yourself automatically by default into a state of self-judgment and negativity, now it's about the pursuit of changing your self-identity. And then what happens is 3 months goes by, 6 months goes by, 9 months goes by, you're consistently making better and better decisions. What happens is that by consistently staying with the keystone habit of, I'm going to make an intentional effort every day to pursue fitness, 45-minute walk, then, progressively might add 1 session, weightlifting session, resistance training session at the gym per week, etc. What happens is you don't even notice it, but there's a domino effect where you start making better decisions in other moments. I'm going to, not order that food. I'm going to order that food. I kind of want to do something healthier. And then what happens, you start doing those things and making those better decisions, those domino effect decisions, without the pressure of, I got a strict diet. No, you're like, I'm going to eat a healthy dish right now, and I'm only going to do 1 drink instead of 3. That's just what I'm feeling. But tomorrow I'm going out. I know I'm going to get hammered. Whatever. I'm not saying that's the advice. But the point is, you start making micro decisions. You'll notice that when you stick with a linchpin or keystone habit in an area of your life, and you do it long enough, your identity starts to change. And when your identity changes, you start making better decisions in other moments and areas of your life because of the impact of changing your identity in the first place. And then you're no longer white knuckling it or gritting your teeth through it. You're just elevating. You're elevating your person, you're elevating who you are, you're elevating your identity, and you're in an elevated identity by default automatically makes decisions that are aligned with your vision for yourself. So, you want to be an investor someday and live off passive income. Okay, start by putting $50 a week into the stock market. $50 a week ain't gonna do nothing, Andre. You're right, it probably won't make you independently wealthy, but remember, the first step is to change your identity. If you can't put $50 a week in there, how else are you gonna ever get to putting in $5,000 a year in there, or whatever it might need, right? Do you see what I'm saying? You gotta start small. $50 a week, you accrue $300, $400, $500 a week. Let's say you got $500 built up. Let's say you got $500 built up after a few weeks. Then you're like, okay, well, if I got to 500, I could get to 5,000. So now you'll still stay with $50 a week, but sometimes when you have a little extra cash, you just tack on a little extra. And if you don't have it, that's cool. Just stick to $50 a week. Do you see what I'm saying? But what happens is that you just keep adding and adding and adding, and now imperceptibly, yet very consistently and with very little friction, because you understand the power of starting small. And you understand that the lens you're approaching this with is, let's build the identity first before we worry about getting to the outcome. Because here's the formula. If you don't have the right identity, if you don't have the right prerequisite identity, you can't have the outcome. So the prerequisite identity is the precedent to the outcome. The outcome is dependent upon the prerequisite identity. So you got to build the identity first. So you're putting in this $50 a week. Sometimes you might pop in a 75, 100, whatever it is, but you keep stacking. Now you will literally start making better, smarter decisions in other financial areas of your life. You will literally might go out and be like, I'm not going to buy drinks for all my friends today. I'm going to save that $50 so I can drop $100 into the stocks next week. That's how it happens. The smarter decisions over time, or making less bad decisions over time, that's how it happens, is that it becomes a byproduct of an elevated self-identity. And the great news is that you can literally change your identity, your self-identity by starting small and just small intentional effort consistently made over time, because then what happens is you begin to see yourself as somebody who does do that. And once you have the identity shift, then there's just an elevation and an acceleration in your decision-making process, your thought process, and your habits in that area in your life and in other areas too. It kind of dominoes into multiple areas of your life. All right? So if you want to grow a big marketing campaign, lead generation campaign for your business, okay, step one, how do you just get 10 new leads opting into your landing page per day with paid ads for some sort of a lead magnet, right? How do we just get to 10 leads per day? Now, how do we turn our inbound 10 leads per day to one phone call per day, or whatever that might be, or one buyer per day, right? You got to do it iteratively. Small little goals. You see the big vision, and then start with a very simple, tiny, small goal, and understand it's about changing your identity. You can't drop a seed in the ground and have an oak tree tomorrow. We know that, right? But we try to do that in our lives. We have this like weird kludge in our wiring that's like, oh, I don't want to start. I have this big vision, but starting small is beneath us, or it stresses us out, or we just want the result now. It won't happen. You can't drop a seed into the ground today and have an oak tree tomorrow. But if you never put a small seed in the ground, you'll never have an oak tree ever. So you have to start small. And again, I'll wrap up with this. If you are constantly approaching your starting small efforts through the lens of, am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? You're automatically throwing yourself into a state of self-judgment, gap mindset, self-criticism, demotivation, this feeling of like, when am I going to get there, right? Not good enough, not smart enough, not doing it right. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If, however, you say, okay, I know that if I don't put a seed in the soil today, I'll never have the tree, and I want the tree. So I'll start with a little soil, with a seed little seed in the soil, metaphorically. And this is right now, it's all about just impacting and starting to elevate and change my identity. So I'm not going to worry about the tree. I know that the giant oak tree is the ultimate goal. I'll get there eventually, because I know that without planting a seed in the ground, you'll never get the tree. Okay, so that's the vision. Now, where am I going to start small today to start shifting my identity so that ultimately I become super fit, healthy, happily married, a good parent, an upstanding, contributing member of my community, wealthy, rich, somebody living off an investor who lives primarily, has all their expenses covered with passive income from investments, a really successful entrepreneur and business owner, a brilliant marketer, whatever that oak tree metaphorically is, right? You cannot get to the outcome without the prerequisite identity. Never happens. That's why when people end up in a circumstance that is way outside their identity, like a lottery winner or somebody who just went through a fitness challenge with friends, and then they lose all the money, go more into debt, or they gain all the weight back and more, it's because there's a rubber band that snaps back to your true identity. Because your identity is the thing that you are most committed to in your life. Your self-identity is the thing that allows you to not fall far below where you're at, but it is also at the same time the thing that has invisible shackles around you, holding you back from the next level until you elevate your identity.